all the books that I read this year that I still have on my shelves. But now that the year is over, it's time to see whose lease is up, who's getting evicted, who we're kicking to the curb. Hi, my name is Sarah Freshly, and welcome back to Freshly Read Books. Did I sound like an evil landlord right then? Oh gosh, this light. Okay, one second. Okay, it seems like that's better. Bit darker, but better. Okay, I've rearranged these so that I can sit a little bit better, although they somehow got messier, so I don't know how both of those things are true at once. But I read 58 books this year. These are not all of them. These are just the ones that I own, and also I think only ones from after I moved. For the most part, I didn't keep books that I read before I moved, unless I felt like I would maybe want to keep them indefinitely. I thought it would be fun this year to actually try to keep all of the books on my shelves that I read, just because it's kind of a cool thing to see, like just how many books I read, because it's weird, like 58 actually seemed like a low number to me because I typically read about like 80 books. And so this year I was like, oh, only 58, like that's nothing. But then when I actually would look at the shelf of books that isn't even all 58, I was like, that's a lot of words. Like that is a lot of pages, a lot of books, a lot of words. So it helped me to feel good about myself during the year. However, I don't tend to keep a lot of the books that I've read. There was a point in my life when I had the dream of like owning a library and how cool that would be and everything. And I still, to some extent, think that that would be awesome. But I also equally and more so love the idea of being kind of mobile and being able to move without it being like a huge deal. And it's kind of crazy that even though I only own 2 bookshelves, the amount of boxes labeled books when we moved from Florida to Colorado was a lot. And so I can't even imagine if I had like a full room of books. So at least at this stage of my life, I'm happy not having a library, and it is kind of nice to just have the books that are the most meaningful to me. So I'll insert a shot here of the one little area of my bookshelf that is dedicated to the books that I've already read and chosen to keep. It's nice because these are all my like favorite books. I absolutely love these books. I could see myself rereading basically all of them, and it just brings me like this sense of happiness seeing them there and seeing them all together and sharing space. So now I have to decide which books from this year also deserve that. That I also want to keep around on that shelf indefinitely. So that being said, this is going to be very ruthless. We are going to be getting rid of a lot of books. By getting rid of, I mean donating to the library, putting in the little library that I have here, and giving away to people. I'm getting into book binding, so I'll probably practice on a couple of these. But anyways, without further ado, let's figure out how many books I'm gonna have to find homes for. Okay, so I don't know how best to start this. I guess I'll start with this pile because it feels a lot more precarious. Starting with North Woods by Daniel Mason. This one was sent to me, which is really nice, by Random House. And it's one of the only times that I've ever been given like a full package for a book. It wasn't just the book itself. It had a great little bookmark, a calendar that came with it that is officially over, actually. I don't know what I'm gonna put on that part of my bookshelf anymore. I've had like the calendar that I got with this book for all this year. It's also signed, which is really cool, but I just don't see myself keeping it because I didn't love it. Like I did really like it. I thought it was good, but I didn't love it. It's not like a favorite of mine or anything. So I'm gonna have to say goodbye to it. I would recommend it to anybody that likes like short stories that are kind of like blended together. It's not a short story collection, it is a novel, but it does kind of feel like that, but where there's a big tie through the whole thing in the like cabin that it follows. So I would definitely recommend it. Then we have The Great Gatsby. Is it weird that I'm like, whatever. This is my second F. Scott Fitzgerald. My first one was The Beautiful and the Damned, which I liked better. The Great Gatsby was good. I'm not saying it wasn't good. I'm not super like attached to it. It was kind of just like, oh, I'm glad that I finally have read this and I understand the story and I understand why people love it. But like, it's not an all-time favorite. Oh no. I don't know if I'm ready to talk about the Emily Henry books, but maybe we should. Maybe we should just grab all those ones out. So, I read all 5 of Emily Henry's adult novels. I had a lot of fun reading these, and there is something satisfying about owning all of these. Plus, they do a great job of designing the books to like all look nice together. But I couldn't really see myself rereading any of these books. And even though Funny Story was in my top books of the year list, I don't feel the need to keep it. I think I would be more enticed if they were all paperback and like matched up perfectly, but even then I don't really think I would want to. I do, however, think these are a great candidate for bookbinding. So I might save them for that purpose. The Nightmare Before Christmas was very fun, a great like wintertime romance to read, but not something that I want to keep around. I've just realized that I should really be going faster with these. Then we have A Quantum Love Story. I DNF'd this one, so I feel like that's easy. If anybody has read all of this, can you tell me what you thought? Did you ever feel like super connected to the characters? Because that was why I ended up DNFing it, even though synopsis wise it seems like the absolute perfect book for me. Then we have Ship of Magic here. Actually, let's go ahead and grab all the Robin Hobbs. So we have Assassin's Apprentice here, Royal Assassin, Assassin's Quest, very creative naming conventions, I know. There should be one more that I just finished. Oh, it's literally right here. I went to move this book out of the way so I could look past it, but this is it. So these are all of the Robin Hobb books that I read this year. And I'm keeping all of them. I'm currently working my way through the Realm of the Elderling books, which is like a bunch of different series within the Realm of the Elderling. So right now I'm in the Live Ship Traders. I think that at least until I'm done with the Realm of the Elderling, I'll probably hold on to these books, but maybe even later. I just think fantasy is really fun to reread. There aren't a lot of genres that I love rereading, like thrillers, meh. Actually, maybe it's just thrillers that I don't like rereading. Oh, and romance. I don't like rereading romance. But fantasy, like I could definitely see myself rereading this series. So I think it makes sense to keep all of these. This feels so crazy. This is a lot for me. I mean, I showed you the clip of how many books that I've read that I've decided to keep on my shelves. Now we have a James S.A. Corey book, so from the Expanse series. So let's grab all of the Expanse series books. They just came out with the first book in a new series, by the way, and I am so excited, and I'm not even done with the Expanse series. We have 2 books left, and we're reading the 8th one in February, and I'm so excited. Okay, I was gonna say, I don't think we only read 3 this year. We read 4. This is books 4, 5, 6, and 7 of the Expanse series. This is like a sci-fi space opera type series that is very accessible, especially like the first book is super accessible, even if you've never read anything that's like high sci-fi is what I kind of think of it in my head, like high fantasy, but for sci-fi, where there is like quite a bit to learn, but it gives you it all in such an easy and digestible way that I think it's like a really great series to get into, even if you're a little intimidated by what it's about and like it being set largely in space. It's also so much fun. The characters are done so well. Like James S.A. Corey, the authors, the 2 authors that make up James S.A. Corey are phenomenal. I don't know how they write together, but they do such a great job. I really loved most of these. I think 6 was the only one that I was kind of like meh about. It still got like a 3-star, which was good, but most of the books I give like 4 to 5 stars, and I was obsessed with 7. This I think is my favorite book in the series now. It was the first book. Now I think it's 7. However, all that being said, I do think I'm going to be parting with these ones just because I can't see myself like rereading the whole series. I don't know, I'll check with Curtis first because he ended up listening to the whole series this year and loving it, and maybe he would want me to keep some of these, but I've already gotten rid of the first 3 books from this. Like I already unhauled those, so it feels weird to hold on to these ones. This is most likely I'm getting rid of them. This one's easy. Joe Nesbo's The Night House, sent to me by Vintage. I'm getting rid of it. It was on my least favorite books list this year. Somebody commented on that video and was like, I don't think anybody's gonna send you books anymore. I was like, I could see why you would say that because I think like 3 of the books on that list were sent to me. But also I feel like 3 or 4 of the books on my best books of all time were sent to me. So like, it's just, I think that I'm more likely to read books that I wouldn't have otherwise read when I can get them like sent to me. I just go with what books they're willing to send and like choose from those, or that they're like actively looking for reviewers for and things like that. And not to mention, I don't think they're watching my 10 least favorite books of the year video. But yeah, getting rid of that one. Ooh, A Darker Shade of Magic. This is definitely a keep, especially while I'm reading through this trilogy. I have the other 2 books. I plan on reading them very, very soon. I really loved it. And so I'm hoping that like the series as a whole is going to be just like a beloved series for me. This is easy. It was another DNF, also sent to me by a publisher. Sent to me by Knopf Publishing. Thank you so much. However, I did DNF it. Not to say that it's like badly written or anything like that. It was just not what I was hoping for in this type of book. Like a nonfiction about how we've managed to like have the relationship that we have with animals. So like domesticating dogs and cats and horses and like all this kind of stuff. And it's like the history of that. But I guess I was expecting it to be like focused on specific animals and talking about, you know, like the history of the dog and like how we got to that point. But instead it's told very like chronologically, which totally makes sense. But it does feel like it jumps around the place a bit more than I can personally pay attention to. So I don't think that it's like bad or anything. It's just that I couldn't keep my focus there. Then we have The Three-Body Problem by Shijin Liu and translated by Ken Liu. This one I do want to keep because I think I'm going to reread this one before reading the other books in the trilogy, because I feel like my brain, I read this like right before we moved, like while we were packing and everything, and I just don't think that I retained like hardly anything. I like kind of remembered what it was about until like a month later, and then I looked at it and I was like, I know I read that, but like I can only remember like these 2 scenes very vividly, and then everything else is a blur. So I'll be working on that trilogy at some point, but I do want to keep it mostly just because I want to reread it. Ooh, War and Peace. This one's staying. I have such memories of reading this now. It took me almost a year, 11 months to read this book. And I just liked it a lot more than I thought I would. When I look at it, it makes me happy. So I think that I'm going to be keeping it around at least for a bit longer. I don't want to see it go just yet. Oh, Home Fire by Camilla Shamsi. This was a really good book, but I feel like it didn't stick with me as much as I thought it was going to. So this is gonna be an unhaul for me. Even like right after I read it, it wasn't like, oh, I loved that book. Oh, this one's really hard actually. This is The Fury by Alex Michaelides. I didn't love it. I would go so far as to say it was bordering on didn't like, but I went to his tour. It came to Tampa. So I went to his tour in like January or February, and I met him and he signed it to me. I don't know, like that's a good memory, but looking at the book, I just feel sad that I didn't like it. But it also feels weird to give away a book that has my name in it and like is signed, but I think that I will. So that was an unhaul, if that was unclear. You Have a Friend in 10A by Maggie Shipstead. Very sad. When I look at this book, it just makes me think that I wish that I owned Great Circle by Maggie Shipstead instead of this one. This was on one of my least favorite books of the year. It was a big disappointing read for me. I haven't been able to read short story collections basically since this. I'm working on getting back into it, but this is a definite unhaul, and maybe one day I'll buy Great Circle and I'll own that one and that'll make me happy. Ooh, tough one. Bloody Rose by Nicholas Eames. Actually, it's not that tough. This is gonna be an unhaul. I did own Kings of the Wild, which is the first book in this series. I read it 3 times. I loved it. I think I would read it again. I did end up giving it to a friend to read, and like I gave it to him. Like I was like, I don't think I'll want to reread this again. But after reading this one, it did make me want to read that one again. So I might end up repurchasing that book. But I didn't love Bloody Rose as much as I loved Kings of the Wild. So I think that this is just gonna be an unhaul for me. I'm looking forward to when Nicholas Eames is finally ready to give us the 3rd book. He's taking his time with it, but I'd rather him take his time and for it to be a great book than to get it earlier and for it to not be great. So I'm okay with it, but I am anxiously awaiting. Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. This was just an okay book for me. I decided that I didn't want to read other books from the series. I say other books from the series because there's only a prequel right now, but I'm assuming later there's going to be sequels. But just not interested in continuing with it. Had fun while I was reading it, but that's about it. Everyone in my family has killed someone. Oh no, this is a tough one. I really loved this book. I had so much fun reading it. Would I read it again? I don't usually read like mysteries or thrillers again. The thing is, it's a part of a series. And I definitely want to continue in the series. And I do kind of like the idea of having these ones together. I think this is going to be at least a keep for now. I might change my mind on that one later, but for right now I'm keeping. Tangled Life by Merlin Sheldrake. This is a nonfiction about mushrooms. I enjoyed it, especially the first like half of it. The second half got very sciencey and I had a really hard time following it, and I feel a little bit ashamed to admit that because it makes me feel dumb, but that's the truth. That's how I felt. And maybe if I stretched my brain a little bit more, I read some more science books, I would get to that point, but I wasn't at that point when I read this, and so I did struggle through that second half. Overall, cool, like interesting book to read, especially that first half that like really connected with me, but it is an unhaul. Other People's Clothes by Kala Henkel. This was sent to me by Anchor Books. Also on my least favorite books of the year list, so I will be unhauling it. Parable of the Sower by Octavia E. Butler. I loved this one. This was on my favorite books of the year list. I think it was 3rd, if I remember correctly. So yeah, I'm definitely keeping this one, especially because I own Parable of the Talents now, and I plan on reading that soon, and then they can live next to each other on my bookshelf, and that's very exciting. It was so good. It was so good. I definitely want to read more from Octavia E. Butler. The School for Good Mothers by Jessamine Chan. This was on my least favorite books list. I feel like all of the ones I'm picking up right now were on one or the other list. But yeah, I didn't really like it. I mean, it was okay. It was like pretty entertaining. It got really repetitive. And then it was over. So this I am unhauling. This one was sent to me by Second Story Press, I think. Yes. This is Non-Disclosure by Renee D. Bondi. This was really good, really like dark and challenging. I cried a lot, which I feel like is impressive in a book of this size, but I don't think that I want to hang on to it. Like I didn't love it. It brought me so much like emotion, and when I look at this book, that's what I think of. But as a whole, it wasn't like I loved it. I would, however, recommend it to a lot of people to read. I would just look up the trigger warnings. But it has a lot to do with the AIDS epidemic, with the Catholic Church, and kind of like coming together and like doing what you can to help the world. This one's an easy one. I'm thinking of Ending Things by Anne Reid. I loved this book. I'm so excited to read more from this author. I can't believe I haven't already, because when I read this, which was one of the first books I read this year, I was immediately like, I need more, and I still haven't read more. I keep looking when I'm like in bookstores to see if they have anything from him. To be fair, most of the bookstores I go to are used, so it's just kind of like up to chance. But I just haven't, I found one, but it was a hardcover and it was like pretty badly damaged, and I already don't really like reading hardcovers, so you know, but I will read more from him. I'm still gonna be, my eyes are gonna be peeled in every bookstore for more books from him. House with Good Bones by T. Kingfisher. Oh, I really liked this one. I immediately bought another T. Kingfisher book, which was at the used bookstore, but I don't really think I wanna hold on to it. I don't know. This one could be, I feel like this could have like a really pretty like bound version of it that would be fun to do. Okay, this one I might try rebinding, which would be my first one doing that's like already a hardcover, and then you're just kind of like doing like the fabric stuff. Then we have The Appeal by Janice Hallett. This one was fun, but I definitely couldn't see myself rereading it. I do think I want to read more from the series, but I don't feel the need to like have several of that. Like I don't think that I'd want to own the series even if I continued enjoying it after this, whereas with like Everyone in My Family's Killed Someone, I think that I would possibly like the series enough that I'd want to have all the books from it. This one I just don't think that I can't really see that possibility. It's fun, it's entertaining to do in the moment, but then like after that, meh. Then we have Orange, which is a manga book that was like kind of just okay for me. It was sad because this was on my like want to read for a long time. It felt very nostalgic to be reading a manga book because I hadn't since like middle school. But if I read more from the series, I would probably just try to get it through the library, even if it's just an ebook. And I don't think I would purchase another one. So I feel like this is an easy unhaul for me. Oh, then we have The Boyfriend Candidate by Ashley Winstead. There is something in me that wants to just hold on to Ashley Winstead books, even though I don't think that I would reread them. I'm actually kind of surprised with myself that I got rid of In My Dreams I Hold a Knife. Oh wait, no, I'm not surprised about that. I gave that to a friend because I really liked it. I could see myself at one point owning all of Ashley Winstead's books, but it feels wrong that this would be the only book that I owned by her just because I love her thrillers and everything. Then we have The Snap by Elizabeth Staple. This was very fun to read and also touched on some things that I was kind of surprised about. There wasn't quite as much of a mystery as I was hoping for, but other than that, very enjoyable. It was sent to me by Doubleday Publishing. I recommend it, especially if you're like into football and the rights and wrongs of women. Every time I look at this one, it makes me sad. I'm kind of excited to get this off my bookshelf. This is gonna be an unhaul. This is Saint X by Alexis Shaitkin. Last year I read Elsewhere by Alexis Shaitkin. It was my favorite book of the year. This year I read this and it was one of my least favorites of the year, which is very sad. I'm still gonna read whatever she publishes next, but this one I don't even want to think about anymore. The good thing is she wrote this before Elsewhere. So like theoretically, she could have just gotten a lot better between the two, or at least a lot more to my taste. I don't want to say better because, you know, all that is so subjective. But I do think that was a bad book. Okay, speaking of bad books, here's In the Weeds by P.K. Morrison. I didn't like this. This is my least favorite book of the year, like overall. This is the worst one. So it's a very, very, very easy unhaul for me. Ooh, Monsters, A Fan's Dilemma. This one was fun to read. I do tend to feel more inclined to keep nonfictions than I do anything else, just because they're so easy to just be like, oh, I remember this great quote or something like that, and just want to like look back on. That being said, I don't think that this topic as a whole really fits that as much for me. It was very interesting to read. It's like all about the dilemma of being a fan of somebody who maybe does things you don't agree with, or speaks out against groups that you like, or does something like really horrible and is going to prison for it and things like that. How do you come to terms with liking their works while you don't like them? And like the kind of questions morally, ethically that brings up in your own mind of like, should it matter? Should it not matter? Should it only matter in certain cases? Should it only matter if you're giving money to the person, as in like watching movies that they've made or things like that? And it's like, okay, if you, like if it's an author and you're able to get their book from a bookstore, like used, so like they're not getting the money anymore. All that kind of stuff. So very good read, definitely recommend it, but I am gonna unhaul it. Burnham Wood. This was my favorite book of this year. It is a definite keep. I loved it so much. I just recommended it to my therapist. So hopefully he likes that. I don't know why I just told you about that. Then we have Heartstopper. Which, shouldn't I have more? Was this the only Heartstopper I read this year? It was. Wow. For some reason I thought that I read all 3 this year, but 2 of them I think I read like 2 years ago. This is really cute. I love it. Love the TV series, the Netflix series. Very excited to read the next 2 volumes that I have, but I don't think that it's something that I'm gonna like hold on to. I could see myself rewatching the show sometimes, but I can't really see myself grabbing these again to go through. I just think that with the show they're able to like explore the characters a little bit more than in like a graphic novel. But I did really love going through the graphic novels. I'm excited to continue in it, and I do think that there's something like really fun about seeing where these characters came from and everything like that, and it makes me appreciate even more the way that they're telling the story even past that. We have The In Crowd by Charlotte Bassel. This is the second book of a series that I unfortunately don't own the first book from because I read it as an ebook. Both were sent to me by the publisher, the ebook last year, and then this year they actually sent me the physical copy, which is so exciting. This is from Doubleday Publishing. I basically begged them for this because I loved the first book so much, and I believe it was on my favorites of the year list. I don't think this one was it? I don't think so. But I did still really like it, and I'm so excited to continue in it. And then we have The Ministry of Time by, I didn't say that I was gonna keep this, but I'm gonna keep this. Then we have The Ministry of Time by Callianne Bradley. This was also one of my favorite books. I've got it tabbed. This was sent to me by Avid Reader Press. I like specifically reached out to them and asked them for it because I saw that they were sending out ARCs, and I saw the premise of the book and I was like, that looks so good. And so I reached out to them and was like, please, can I also have this book? It looks like something I would really like. And they were so kind to send it to me. But yeah, this is like one that I've like highlighted and marked up and everything, which I almost never do. That is super rare for me. Tabs aren't super rare. They're kind of rare for me to put little tabs in books, but to actually get out like the marker and go to town, very rare. And by marker I mean highlighter. I don't know why I called it a marker. So yeah, I really like that one. Is that everything? It is. We did it. Okay, I kept more than I expected to, if I'm being honest. I kept 14 books and I'm getting rid of 33 books. So I feel like that's pretty good. I do every once in a while go through all of the books that I've decided to like keep on my bookshelf for a long period of time. And sometimes I go through and remove some of those. So this doesn't mean that these will be on my bookshelves forever, especially the ones that are a part of series that I'm more kind of like feeling out more of the series to decide. But I think that a fair amount of these are gonna be there for a long time, especially like my absolute favorites from this year. And seeing them all together, even just like in these little 2 stacks, makes me so happy. Like just looking at them and thinking of like all the great times I had reading them. It sounds really cheesy. But anyways, that is going to do it for this video. I hope that you enjoyed watching. If you did, consider subscribing, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.